All right, I figured I would do a little review, I guess, but I think it's going to be more picking it apart of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And I saw it Friday night. I'm recording this on a Sunday, and I've had plenty of time to think about it. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't emotional, right? I want to have a little control and stuff, and it's not going to happen, right? So even though it's not a movie I hate, it had a lot of good stuff in it. Overall, I'm just going to talk about what the things I saw in the movie were crap, okay? So first of all, if you saw The Force Awakens, I want you to do like Luke Skywalker did when he got handed the lightsaber. As a matter of fact, you might as well just take all of the Star Wars movies and just pass them around, just get rid of them. So yeah, I'm going to assume you've seen the movie. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Monty Python. And I'm going to talk about birds, believe it or not, right? So we're going to get to the point. And I'm going to talk like you saw the movie, okay? So the movie starts with a lot of buildup from The Force Awakens. Force Awakens, all these movies are tied. So when you talk about these movies, you can pull from the other ones. And The Force Awakens, even though it got a lot of critique that I thought was necessary, a lot of, criticism stuff for being eerily similar and things like that, it had to bring the fans back in. It's not defending it. To me, I was going to judge that movie by what they did with the second movie. If they made a clone of Empire Strikes Back, I was out. But what they did in that movie is they made it familiar again. They had to bring back people, let them know that these are not the prequels without shitting on the prequels. You know what I mean? So they brought people in, and I was all right with it. But they had a lot of buildup because they were going to start moving forward when Ren got called by Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, and how she started having visions of the past and the future and heard the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and saw flashes of Luke being surrounded by the Knights of Ren in the rain and the temple that was on fire and his hand just touching R2 and R2 going into hibernation and everything like that. Who are Ren's parents and things like that. The Kylo Ren thing, who is Snoke? It had so many things to bait us and have us look forward with that. And then the movie ended in a literal cliffhanger of Luke standing on the cliff, not saying anything, and we see Luke, and he's looking at Ren. And then this movie starts out with The Last Jedi. So we come in and it starts out like a Star Wars movie. We have our space, we have our crawl, our space. We come into a big ship, flying, battling around and everything like that. Apparently it's taking place very close, if not right at the end of The Force Awakens. And we have our Star Wars, and it's like, oh, cool. And we have Poe Dameron, who was just our, new Han Solo, if you will, but he was still his own thing. He's just this great pilot and everything. And all this stuff. And all of a sudden, after taking on the dreadnought and having a plan and everything like that to get everyone, safely out of the base and away from the First Order, he just turns around and decides to go against orders and he's going to take on this big dreadnought. Apparently this is a big deal, right? Okay, big deal. Okay, we have some tension, we have our action and everything like that. And then it happened. They slowly decided that we can take the dreadnought out, and they just happen to have these big, bulky, slow ships in space, in Star Wars, just on the ready, even though this wasn't part of the plan. And they come out and they're filled with bombs. They're trying to say they're like bombers of, 1942 or something. And there's a fleet coming in. And we're in space. If you've watched Star Wars, you know how the ships are able to move and stuff. Even the big, bulky medical ships can even hit light speed and maneuver around and all this stuff. And they have these things crawling at a snail's pace. And they all get blown up except for that last one. Then we have someone end up sacrificing themselves to drop the payload in space. And we're in space, and these things drop down in space. They're dropping bombs in space. There's no gravity in space. Now, Star Wars has broken a lot of rules that we go with. There's sound in space and explosions in space, for us to be watching on a cinematic level. And right there, I knew we were in trouble. I'm sitting there going, why are they going so slow? And how are they able to fall down? And I'm just like, oh my God. And I realized this was just a plot to prove a point to make Poe an idiot. I'm like, you just made Poe Dameron this big hero. And I can go with the hot-headed Top Gun trigger happy thing. They call him in the movie and stuff. But I'm just like, oh no. So the next thing that got me was we returned to see where Luke is and Rey. We see right where they left off, and Luke just turns around after this cliffhanger ending, in The Force Awakens, where you can just see the pain and the burden and the heaviness being handed to him again, literally. I mean, there's no talk, and we have the big pan shot of him on the island, and he grabs it and throws it, and right there, I knew what was going on. They changed the tone of the movie right there into like slapstick. I'm not saying that's good or bad, okay? I mean, that's a personal choice, but you just killed the tone of the Star Wars movies, in my opinion, what people were expecting. And I knew it was over. So I'm hanging in there watching the movie, and we see some cool things. Leia uses the Force to save herself, and we're just moving along. And then I'm having a problem with the plot because the First Order has all the ships, and Snoke has popped up in his big ship, and we've got what's left of the rebels, sort of like floating away because they're trying to save fuel. All of a sudden, that's never really been brought up in Star Wars that I can think of. They don't have enough fuel for a light speed jump. I mean, this started breaking the rules of Star Wars that they had set up in their movies and stuff, right? So they're going to spend hours and hours and hours, 17 hours, 28 hours, whatever the hell it was, and all that stuff. They're just going to kind of follow them instead of going in for the attack and wiping them out. And this is what's left of the Alliance, is what the rebels, what they're saying. This is it right here, and they're just going to float behind them, let them stay out of range, so that Finn and this new character Rose, can go on a big secret mission, and they end up on a casino world, and they're going to try to find a code breaker to come back to take out some kind of tracker that can track them through light speed and all this stuff, right? They need the code breaker so they can just get there. And they have hours and hours to do this, and they're able to slip away. It just blows my mind. And we end up on a casino world where all of a sudden we don't feel like we're in a world that's far, far, far away. We are on a beach in Malibu, is what it feels like, in somebody's house with people who are supposed to be the rich, and all of a sudden we get political. And I'll talk political here in just a minute here. And we have the social economic class who are war profiteers are now also, we sort of shove in some animal cruelty talk in there and stuff, right? And all of a sudden the pacing of the movie is dead. You made a whole separate movie, and it's got this real surreal feeling that Star Wars characters have landed on Earth, and I'm like, why even? This is Star Wars, man. You had a chance to, and you even have the police there because they're illegally parked. I can handle some humor to break up tension and all this stuff. And as we go forward, Luke is kind of useless. I would have really been on board with that if we got his story. And it turns out that instead of the Knights of Ren and this big battle and this big fight and the fall of the Jedis and all this stuff like that, we get a guy standing over somebody in bed, and Kylo just happens to wake up. Say that out loud. I don't care how cool you thought the movie was. Say that out loud. Luke is standing over Kylo in bed, thinking about taking him out, and Kylo wakes up and crashes a house down on him. And yes, he thinks he's dead and walks away, and Luke comes out and he's just broke. Where's the Knights of Ren? Where's all this stuff you've already set up? Okay. And long story short, he says it should be the end of the Jedi, and it says this is the Force and we don't own it and stuff. So I'm hanging in there and I'm listening, and I'm like, this could be interesting. Every time they drop, they have a little piece there that can come back up and take you in. And the big thing, I think it's the big secret of this, is Yoda pops up, and Yoda's all laughing and being all goofy and stuff, and he decides to destroy the first novels, the literature of the Jedis and the Jedi tree and all this stuff, It's a page turner, was it not? There were so many references that made them sound like they were from Earth. The movie ended up becoming self-referential, self-aware, And they're talking about, blow it up, it doesn't mean anything, we'll go forward and stuff. And then as we go on, and we have our last of our rebels and Kylo Ren taking out Snoke, right when you can't tell if he's going to go with Ren, or if Ren's going to go with, or Rey is going to go with him, or Rey is going to go with Kylo. Like I said, I'm talking like you've seen the movie and stuff. We get our elevator scene that looked like Luke and Darth Return the Jedi. Then we get in there and Snoke is killed and taken out. Our new Emperor is just basically cut in half and tricked and everything like that. Very anticlimactic. And then we find out that Kylo wants he and Rey to uh, be the ones to run the show in the new Empire and stuff, right? Or whatever. And the attacks still go through. And like, I was watching this, and there's like little pot shots before Snoke was taken out. There's a little scene there where he tells, he's sitting there just giving Kylo hell, and he's like, "You're gonna be the next Darth Vader," and he tells him to take off his ridiculous helmet. It looks stupid, and tosses it to the side. And I'm starting to pick up what they're doing. So all the rebels land on a salt planet. It's not snow, it's salt. They're on a salt mining colony, and somehow they end up in a gigantic cave that looks like it could have been taken out of Lord of the Rings, with no back door. There's one way in and one way out in this place. Whatever. So you got the last of the rebels, and they've sent out messages like, "Help us. If there's anybody anywhere in the corners of the universe, come help us," and nobody came. I think they were down to like 400, and then a bunch of those people got shot in the ships before they even landed on the planet. So this is it. This is all that's left of the Rebel Alliance. And so they get out there, and they get like these ships for some reason that are just old and clunky, and their feet are coming through, and they're going at these AT-ATs, which I know they have a new name, but they look like giant monkeys. And they're going at them like they're going to do something. They're like stalling for time, hoping help arrives, and it was very clear nobody was coming as far as they knew. And Finn, who after being turned into slapstick in this movie and having a very anticlimactic fight with Captain Phasma and all this stuff going on, is going to do it. They have a gigantic cannon that's going to blast the cave and kill everybody, and he's going right at it, and he's going to take them out, right? And all of a sudden, Rose comes in and hits him from the side. These things these things barely drive. Finn was on a big head start, and somehow she's got the one of these little rusty ships that can get up there and knock him out of the way and about kill them both. And she actually said something to Finn about when he asked, "Why did you do it?" I was about to save everybody, at least for a little while. She said something that was actually very astute, okay, that I kind of get on board with. He said, "We're not going to win by killing those we hate, but by saving those we love." I'm on board with that. But there's a time and a place for it. And the time and the place is not when you have a gigantic space cannon about to kill everybody, because you just saved the person who was going to take that out and buy everybody more time and maybe have somebody else come down and all this stuff like that. And you're already dying. You're in a wreck and you're hurt and stuff, and they're still coming, and everybody's still going to die. That's why I was sort of like, what? This is not the time. You just could have really been responsible for killing everybody because you wanted to save Finn because you have feelings. So all of a sudden, Luke does show up, and he looks different, and I'm picking up on this, and I'm just sort of like, what is going on here? How did he get in? It's I'm not buying it. By this time, this movie has become an effort to finish, and I'm hanging in there, and I'm not trusting anything I've seen. You've taken away my suspension of disbelief. You've already shown me that you're breaking your own rules here, so I'm not buying when Luke just walks in. And of course, he walks out there, and he looks younger, and his hair is different, and I know something's going on. I just don't know what. I'm like, when did he have a chance to clean up? I'm like, that's probably why I didn't really think too hard about it. I just knew something. I just didn't trust what I was seeing. But, I was like, oh, okay, so they dressed him up and stuff. And they had him actually touch Leia and give her something to kind of, I guess, suck you in. And, of course, he goes out there, and now Kylo loses it, okay? The Empire has spent days, hours or whatever, just letting them float to this planet, the Rebels. But by gosh, when he sees Luke, he's like, take that man out, and now they're attacking full force, and you come out there. Long story short, it turns out Luke is not there. And the whole theme of this movie, after I guess the Luke's and they escape, if you will. They don't win, they escape. As they start talking about the Jedi's have a history of failure after failure after failure. And they're talking about it's time to like rebuild and be the new spark for history. Basically, they're telling you to get rid of history, is what the message in this is. And this is where I had a problem thematically with that. And this is where we're going to be able to move on now if you've hung in here this far. Oh my God. Basically, I'm one of those people that thoroughly believes that those who ignore history or fail to learn it are the fools who are doomed to repeat it. And that seems to be the message here. You know, it's forget about your Star Wars and forget about all this stuff. We're going to build new, and you're going to end up repeating the same mistakes if you really do that. I mean, I know it's just a movie, and they're talking about in the movie wise, and it's lazy writing. What I'm interpreting is they're saying that we can't top the George Lucas stuff. We can't give you those moments and the cool stuff that was in it and stuff. So we're going to go with an ideology and a political spectrum that's now. You know what I mean? That's right here and right now. Because you know, we're going to take the easy way out. You know, we're just going to start anew, and we're going to say that everything that came before this was, you know, garbage and trash, and we can just toss it. Why did you even buy Star Wars? You know, why did you even buy Star Wars? You know, why did you take that path? Why did you bring them back? It was a cash grab, guys. It was a cash grab. No judgment here. You know, Disney is the people in the casinos. You know, I mean, you know, that they were looking down on, you know, so, you know, there's a little bit of hypocrisy there, right? And that leads into the ideology and the hypocrisy stuff. Now, my channel has been hurt because I won't pick a side. I have spoke about things on the left that's been pointed out to me, and spoke about things on the right, and I'm kind of in the middle. I see things from both sides that are good, and I see things from both sides that are bad. And it's hurt this channel, and I've actually had a few people I think kind of dodge me now, like at least on social media and stuff, right? No big deal. But when you get all this talk about alt-right, alt-left, these ideologies that are getting brought into, it seems like everything, and now it's definitely in Star Wars. You know, everybody uses the words alt-left and alt-right, and it's really right-wing and left wing, and that's what it's been called. And it's all about a set of wings and how far out you go from the center out to the tip of whatever wing you're on before you fall off. And a bird flies with two wings. They both have to be working together, right, to do something, right? There's things about the right and about the left that we all need, you know? But right down in the middle is that you need to have somebody driving who can understand what the right wing can do and what the left wing can do and what could be done. And to simplify this, since we're talking about movies, is we're going to talk about, real quick, Life of Brian, Monty Python, and the Holy Grail, right? One takes place, you know, with the birth of Jesus and goes on, 0 AD to whenever. And the Holy Grail is during the Dark Ages. And in this, you know, you have a scene that's very famous where you have a bunch of rebels sitting there, and they're like, what have the Romans done for us? And so the people start like, well, you know, the aqueduct, we have clean water, sanitation, education, roads, we can go out at night and it's safe. And they're like, yeah. Besides clean water, sanitation, education, safety, and all that stuff, what have the Romans really done for us? And this is where it comes to about repeating history. If you look, and I'm simplifying this now, okay? It's not so much a history lesson, but this is perfect. But one of the tactics to control people in masses and keep them ignorant is to, you know, make them forget the past. History repeats itself. People look at the past and they learn how to manipulate crowds and predict how they're going to act, and you can control people and make predictions about things, and it can be studied. That's sociological, at least sociological. Let me get my coffee here. I'm about done. And what happens when you keep people ignorant? Now, you understand there was a lot of sciences going on. There was democracy coming out. And like I said, all the things I mentioned, it was educating people, keeping them safe and stuff. And it all came at a price. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't perfect. You know, I don't want to paint it. But when you wiped all that away, you come up and you're in the Monty Python. And in real life, we ended up living in freaking dark ages for centuries because we forgot our history and our past, just to oversimplify this. And that's where you can watch this and you learn how ignorant people are about how, like, what else floats? A duck. So if she weighs more than a duck, she's a witch and we can burn her. And you have public opinion taking over science and stuff like that in real government issues, and people a little bit more educated and stuff, right? So when I'm watching this, I'm just like smacking my head. I'm not buying this. They know they're just, it was just a bad movie with a bad message, is what I think. Um, but sadly enough, the movie, which was what killed me, has had some really great parts in it that was like Star Wars. You know what I mean? Leia using the Force. You know what I mean? Oh, Chewbacca busting open a door and being happy to see Luke. You see Chewbacca and Luke back together. Maybe it's a little nostalgia there, but yeah, there was some potential in there and some really nice moments and stuff, which is why I think people are so divided on this movie. All right, guys. Well, that's my message. So that's my review of the. I could go on and on picking that movie apart. Man, there were so many things in there I could not believe that was going on. All right, later.